Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to talk about autonomy and democratic citizenship. Autonomy is an integral part of a student's democratic education, as it promotes a sense of responsibility, a sense of self-sufficiency, and the ability of taking risks. In this process, the teacher's role is to lay the foundations for the children to take a hold of their own authority. This takes a different approach from traditional authoritarianism, as their autonomy-promoting teacher distributes control over students. Therefore, autonomy does not mean things such as children working in isolation or alone. It certainly doesn't mean that they end up being in a chaotic classroom, where they have free reign over the teacher. Ideally though, it should mean they start to realize, express, and act on their own preferences and the strategies that help them, whilst they feel less dependent on adults or others to achieve their set goals. It also means that they have the ability to ask for help when and in a way that will most support them. Furthermore, they can take initiative, see learning as a collaborative enterprise, and also become critically aware of their context and their power to change contexts. This leads us to the next question: what are autonomous learning skills? These are skills that individuals require to pursue, organize, and evaluate their own learning in accordance with their own needs. They include the ability to identify one's own learning needs, as well as identifying, locating, and accessing possible sources of information. Beyond this, they include the ability to judge the reliability of the various sources of information, and process and learn that information using the most appropriate techniques possible. This also includes thinking about what has been learned and the progress that has been made. Ultimately, it is important for students to learn how to deal with political, civic, and cultural issues. There are many ways teachers can engage autonomy in the classroom, such as lessons that allow for student initiative and/or decision-making, inquiry-based tasks providing opportunities for exploration and taking risks, activities that draw out pupils' natural curiosity, collaboration and interaction with teachers plus other students, and critical reflection and the meta-learning process, that is, the process of making sense of your experience of learning. However, it should be noted that autonomy is different from autonomous learning skills, and this can only come with thoughtful preparation from the teacher's side that focus on developing these skills in children. Now let's talk about autonomy and non-traditional education. To begin with, we should probably establish the difference between traditional education and non-traditional education. Traditional learning can be observed in a behaviourist approach that takes a stimulus response model to teaching. This looks at learning only as knowledge acquisition, and knowledge is something to be gained or internalized by the student. In this sense, lessons usually follow a traditional structure, with the teachers instructing and the students just listening. Now let's look at non-traditional learning. Non-traditional learning is more constructivist in that students create meaning based on interaction. This views the learning process as a response to a question, challenge, or disturbance, and less as a way of gaining more, and more as a means of showing who they are through the above response. It's usually based around immersive, challenging lessons that can confront students. Sometimes this can be a disturbing process that is termed transcendental violence. In order for this process to occur successfully, there needs to be a safe pedagogic space. This is the space where students can express themselves freely as well as take risks. It is imperative that this space be set up in order for students to successfully step out of their comfort zone. This is one of the main challenges of transcendental violence, as it can sometimes be difficult to sustain among young learners. Lastly, I will talk about autonomy and responsibility, as autonomy cannot exist without responsibility. This is because responsibility is directly related to one's own accountability for one's actions. This includes the adoption of reactive and thoughtful approaches, the identification of one's duties, making decisions about the actions to take, the taking of that action, and the willingness to hold oneself accountable. It also includes the willingness to appraise and judge the self, and the willingness to act courageously when this is judged to be necessary. That covers our short seminar for today. Make sure you read your notes and do your homework and be ready for the workshop this Wednesday. We'll see you then.